So I can put in a static page. Now in our pages, I haven't made a page already called home page. So I'm going to select a page that was already made and I'm going to choose I'm going to choose this page here, adopt us, don't shop. I'm going to choose that to be our home page. So I'm choosing that. So the page is already made and already published. And I'm going to publish this. To get back out of these options, I can click back. Then I need to click this X to get back to the main dashboard. Let's refresh and see what happens. You notice I'm always toggling between the dashboard and then the version that people will see. Now they refresh, you can see the home page is now appearing. It doesn't look so nice. It's the things sort of falling off the page. Each theme has its own way of styling the theme. So this is something that is quite maybe frustrating when it comes to WordPress for beginners. So like over the last few years, since Cadence is so good, I'm just basically recommending Cadence as the theme to use. But otherwise, if you didn't want to use Cadence, then really there's a little bit of trial and error, because when you install a theme, you can often see previews of like, you know, an end product that someone made, but you can't see, it's more difficult to see like what you can see as the administrator. So for example, this here, we're in WordPress, but we've installed Cadence, and this Cadence theme comes with its own different styling. So for example, just if I click into the colors here, we can see, for example, the colors and fonts. This is all related to Cadence. Maybe other themes don't allow me to, for example, change the colors of the buttons so easily. Just for the sake of practice, I can change my colors like this. Typically, I would never click around like what I'm doing. I would always type out the hex. So that's the pink from the Innovation Academy logo. So let's just publish this. So this is the colors of the buttons. Do we have any buttons? Yeah, there we have. So we've changed all of the colors of the buttons. You can see the hover color. I'm just leaving it as it is, just for the sake of time. But that's where that is coming from. And there's all different things here that you can play with. As you can imagine, this styling takes a huge amount of time, because it's not just as simple as like like changing the colors really fast. Generally, well, if you were given a gorgeous mock-up from Figma, then you would be making exactly as your designer gave you. But if you're like making a website for yourself, you might be sort of designing on the fly. So you might be like, oh, actually, now that I've done that background color, I don't like it like that. I want it to be blue first and then pink. So then I'm going to like put in the pink here and then change this blue here and excuse me, and kind of playing around with it like that. It's that tweaking kind of thing that generally takes up loads of time. So I'm not going to go into more things here in terms of the layout. But there's loads of things that you can click with and play with inside Identity. You can upload your logo. And also we mentioned CSS. The default CSS is already within the theme. So for example, when we changed the color of the button, we didn't have to think about CSS. We just had to know about hex colors. We didn't have to think about CSS because the theme is all doing that in the background for us. However, if there's something in particular that we wanted to do, then that's where we could put in our CSS here. And an example of something in particular you might want to do is, let's just say, to choose that example of the buttons where we've made all the buttons be pink on hover. Let's say we wanted, for example, this button to be a different style button. That's where, from a very kind of high level overview, we would give that button an ID. You might remember where we mentioned ID when it comes to CSS. You'd give it an ID in the HTML. And then in the CSS, that's where you could style that button to be whatever, a green circle or whatever you want it to be. Click back. So actually, let's just publish that to keep the change. And I'll click X to go back to the dashboard. So I know this is really, really kind of lightning quick through these things, and I'll link to more videos if you prefer to look at any of these videos in more detail, or in these topics in more detail, I should say. In plugins is a huge thing with WordPress. Other systems, so I'm showing you WordPress here, but other systems work in a very similar way. So like Shopify and other systems as well have different things. They're not always called plugins. They might be called add-ons, or apps. Sometimes they're called. But just like with the themes, you have free and paid for themes. You have free and paid for plugins. So, for example, one plugin that I'm going to install is one that I would recommend installing on all websites. Oh, look, I'm searching the existing plugins. That's why it's not coming up. Plugins, add new. I'm going to search for Yoast, which is like toast with a Y. And this is what I think is the best plugin for SEO for WordPress. I'm installing it. And when I install it, I have to activate it, which means like turn it on. So install means I'm downloading it and putting it onto my website. And then when I activate it, I turn it on. So you can see this is like super popular plugin. So I'm going to activate this. And I won't go into detail about that, but that's a plugin that helps me with my SEO. These kind of traffic light systems that appear over here are relating to SEO. And if I just, for example, click into, let's just say, for example, pass here, we'll see if we go down here, all the way down, this section here, where it says Yoast SEO, this is all related to the plugin that we've just installed. So for example, this particular page is all about how to build a WordPress page. So for example, I might put in a keyword. So this is what we want to be optimized for. That's what I want the search term to be, as in when people search for how to build a WordPress page, I want my website to appear. And then once I put in something there, then the analysis will appear. So I mean, I just made this up, just so Pat doesn't feel I'm picking on him here, but it's a great page that he's made. You can see here, and this analysis results are giving me reds, oranges, and greens. So as you can imagine, the reds are things that it wants you to change. Oranges, think about changing. Greens are great. It's saying, for example, the key phrase introduction, your key phrase or its synonyms do not appear in the first paragraph. So what we're going to do is so this is an example of, without going down a whole rabbit hole of search engine optimization, this is a perfect a heading. The search term, build a WordPress page, that's there. The search terms aren't in the URL, so I would change that. But they're also, I don't think, again, on the rest of the page. So I'm just doing a Control F. If I do a search for this, it's appearing down here in the SEO stuff, but it's not appearing anywhere except for this heading here. So that's a clue to Google or any search engine that this isn't really about how to build a WordPress page, but it is. So for example, what we might do is edit the text. So I'll just edit this quickly and undo it. So for example, so I've edited now the first paragraph because and now we should have you can see there where it's saying it wasn't appearing in the first paragraph. Now that is not a red thing anymore. It's saying the key phrase in introduction, well done. So we've changed our red from our message from a red to a green. And let me just undo that for you, Pat, because it's not so nice English. Okay. So that's just a taster of what that plugin can do. There are other plugins. So for example, there's already a plugin there around Security Optimizer. I have a plugin there called when last log in to easily see when a user has last logged into the WordPress website, because the plugin might show me what's already in the database, or it might be actually add in an extra table into the database to record extra information that I want to do. So for example, if I look back at our database, you may see all to see all the tables. you might notice that there are more tables here now than earlier. And why is that? It's because I installed the Cadence theme, but more importantly, Yoast. So you can see there are actually, because I installed the Yoast plugin, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra tables relating to Yoast. Let's edit a page. So I'm just going to go into page. I'm going to make a brand new page. So what goes in the title is automatically the H1 heading by default. And if I publish this page, that means save it so it's publicly viewable to the internet. Then the link of that page, so if I just copy that and paste it in here, you'll see that automatically the link of the page is taken directly from the text that I put in the headings, which just has the little dashes in there. So that text that I put there is very important for humans for search engine optimization. I can type, and the default that I type is that it'll be a paragraph, or you can see it says type to choose a block. I can click the plus here or the plus here to add in a block. And that's where, for example, there's loads of different types of blocks. So for example, I might add in an image, and I can either upload or go to the media library. Just for the sake of quickness, I'm just going to choose an image that you guys have already uploaded. Let's look at the HTML here. So on this image here, you might remember we talked about the alt. Over here on the right hand side, I can see where I can put in the alternative text. So over here, I might put in some description of this image that makes some sort of sense. If I go into here, I can edit as HTML, and that's where I can see the P. If you remember, we were saying the default for these is a paragraph, so that makes sense. You just simply see the P's of the paragraph. I'm adding in a subheading here, and the default, as we know, is a paragraph. I can check that by looking at this. You shouldn't really edit it here. Sometimes it's a bit glitchy, but at least you can see the HTML is really there. You'll recognize that as your P opening paragraph and your P closing paragraph. I'll just zoom in a bit. If I want to make this be a heading, what I want to do is I select it and then click this little icon and then transform to a heading. When it transforms it to a heading, it's changing it by default to a H2, but I could also change to a H3, for example, as well. So this would be a subheading of the subheading. So again, I click on it and transform to H3. And alternatively, I could have clicked plus, written heading, search for heading, and chosen try. And if you want to view the HTML just out of interest, you click on the whatever it is, the element, and you click the little 3 dots, and then edit as HTML, and you'll see the HTML appear. Also, in this HTML here, it's added in a class. And if you remember, we talked about classes and IDs when it came to CSS. That's an instruction to the CSS to say, like, there's probably CSS styling for H2s in general, but then for any H2 that has this particular styling, it'll make them look in a particular way. So I need to click there. So click back to edit visually. Okay. Then similarly, if I want to do a list, this is a paragraph, if that's the default. This is a list of fruit I like. So I want them to be a list. So instead of just writing a dash or something, I'm going to again convert that to a list. And once I have it as a list, I can either choose it to make it an unordered or an ordered list. And finally, let's update And let's preview this and see how it looks. So I'm leaving the editing version open. This is how it looks here. And if I wanted to see the code, I can either right click view source. This is in case you're interested. This is the code that is all being generated by WordPress. Somewhere in there, here's my content, but most of that is around the styling and the content from the header and the footer and everything else. Or if I wanted to see the code, the HTML code of a particular element, I can click right click and inspect, and then it will pop up with the part that I clicked and highlighted. So there we can see the exact HTML for this bit that I added in. So you can see that's the paragraph. There's the list. We can see it's an OL ordered list 1, 2, 3, and there's the list items in there and so on. So I feel like that is enough WordPress for now, but I'll add in a few extra links. And if you have any extra examples or any questions or things that you want me to cover, do let me know. I feel like my brain is fading a little bit, so apologies if this video had low energy. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.